would be good. Maybe turn off your notifications. And so glad that you guys could join in with me and the Bishop Luke DeBenedetto. Did I get your name right first go?
You did say it correctly. Look at all these beautiful men and Whitney. No, wait. No, Faith's there too.
And Riley.
And Riley. Okay, wow. I suck.
Yeah, you're a horrible person, Luke. For those of you that don't know Luke, he is the youth pastor at Seven Hills Church in Cincinnati, Florence. What's the location?
Yeah, just south of Cincinnati. No one really knows Florence though, so we identify with Cincinnati.
Well, the airport's the Cincinnati airport, so and it's a phenomenal church. His lead pastor has been a friend of mine for probably nearly 20 years now. And if you're not familiar with Seven Hills Church, they've got it's an unbelievably brilliant church there in Cincinnati. And so, Luke, thank you for taking time out to be with us tonight. We're so glad to have you.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. Glad to connect with everybody. And hoping we can all take something away and, learn. We're all in this together. We're all figuring it out for sure.
Cool. So the plan is, for those of you just coming online, I'm going to ask Luke some questions that I think would help all of us. And once we've sort of worked our way through that, we'll take some time out for you guys to ask questions as well. So maybe make a note of something that you would like to ask or how we can help you, and we'll get to that. I don't really plan that we'd be any longer than an hour. If we are, then that's fine, but we're not gonna waste your time. But Luke, just to start out with, how are you handling just personally at home? You told me earlier you guys have just gone into lockdown today. This is something new.
Right. So we've been obviously for the past couple weeks following just whatever, guidelines our governor's been putting out. So we've been following closely just whatever the White House has been releasing each day, and then just whatever our governor has been saying. And every day, as y'all probably know, every day it's been changing. Every day it's different. So we set our plan and we're like, okay, we meet as a staff. Hey, this is what our plan is. Okay, now it's changing. And then another staff meeting the next day. Hey guys, here's what it is. So it's been changing every day. So the newest directive where we're at is this morning we met, and we're all going to be working remotely from home. And we're saying our building is completely closed. The only things that are going to keep going are some of our outreach efforts. But even then, it'll be less than 10 people in the church at a time. And then we're all to be working remotely from home, and then, accessing online things like Dropbox, working from home. So it's an adjustment. I mean, every day is an adjustment, as y'all know. It's you get your plan set, and then you've got people asking you, hey, what's the game plan? What are we doing? And it's like, we don't know. We're figuring out day by day. So I don't know, just even some personal things. Like, I think it's good to just still stay healthy. So for me, you probably know this, Pastor John and Greg, I mean, all you guys, like, it's hard not going to the gym. So, I mean, Savannah can tell you, my wife, whenever I'm not in the gym, my mindset is totally different. I'm way more easily agitated. So I've had to learn stuff here. Right? I'm like, yeah, I'm a bit more on edge, as she would put it. I'm a little more on edge.
This is definitely an unprecedented time. I think it's the first time in history that it's ever been cool to be a homeschooler.
I don't even know if it's still cool then. Like, now it's just a bunch of nerds. Now that's all that is.
that was rumor I heard. Anyway, here's some questions, Luke. Yeah. So for everybody here, what key relationships do you think that a youth pastor should be focusing in on right now?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think number one, it's great to, first of all, be in good communication with whoever your higher up is. So if you are directly under an executive pastor or your senior pastor, be staying up to date with them as much as you can, because you're going to be, whatever you're communicating downline has got to come properly, So I don't want to be communicating one thing to my team just because it was said a couple of days ago, and then not realize that it changed. So I'm every day focusing in on those relationships, making sure that I'm up to date with everything there. But beyond that, I'd say downline, the biggest relationships to focus in now on who's your leaders, who's your team, whoever that might be. If for you that's small group leaders, maybe it's an admin, maybe it's a core group of adult leaders in your youth ministry. That is everything right now, and that's what I'm finding is, for me, we've got a core group of service leaders that oversee our volunteers. It's about 10 adults. So I'm in communication with them every day. Beyond that, I've got some small group leaders as well that I'm in communication with probably every other day. And then I've got some interns that work with me in the department that, again, I'm with every day communicating. We just got a text group. So I think the biggest relationships right now, like, you can go way down line into a lot of other things, but the primary relationships, got to make sure your leaders are on the same page with you right now, because just as you're getting new information from what I've been finding, I'm getting new information every day from our senior pastor and from our executive pastors. So I got to make sure I'm updating my teams so that they know what's going on and they know what's expected. So yeah, that's been number one for us, the relationships to
So package that connection for me a little bit, because I've got a lot of different people online,
right?
And so some of them would be maybe working a job,
right?
Hopefully, or they may not be able to do that right now. But so those communications that you're making with those different people,
right?
How long are you like communicating? Like when you say I'm communicating to all my leaders, would that be I have 5 leaders and I do a Zoom call with 5 people every day, or is that I'm calling everybody individually? How does that communication play out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's regardless of size. I think scale it to what works for you. So we've got small group leaders. We've got 51 small group leaders. It doesn't make sense for me to personally contact 51 small group leaders every day. That's like ridiculous with the amount of details we're going in addition to everything else. So beyond that, I've got 4 coaches above them. And then I talk to my coaches. I've got a group chat with them, and I'm talking to 4 of those coaches every day, and they're talking to all the leaders every day. Beyond that, I've got our service leaders. We're talking to them. There's 10 of them, but I can just have a group chat with them. And then as they have questions, then I'm taking phone calls. So some of them are phone calls. Most of it's through text or just through Zoom or just through FaceTiming people. But whatever you can do, try to layer it as best you can, so you're not having to individually contact, 70 people. So I've got 3 different group chats going, and I can send out information to just those groups of people, and then they kind of go down their downline, if that makes sense. That's what we do. So whether it's you're communicating directly to your leaders, maybe there's one of your leaders that you can say, hey, would you mind helping me communicate? Creating a layer there has helped me tremendously.
Yeah. Just to keep touching on that a little bit, especially as those, are you asking those leaders to keep communicating downline to teenagers? Is that how that all spreads out?
Yeah. So how our communication funnel works is we've got coaches. We've got 4 coaches. 5 coaches. 5 coaches. Underneath them, 51 leaders. And then underneath each leader, they've got anywhere from 6 to 10 students underneath them. And that's kind of how our communication has been going. So for things like, hey, this is how we're going to do services. I'm going to start by communicating to those coaches. Hey, coaches, here's the game plan. I need you to send this exact thing to your leaders. Those coaches each have about, a small group size worth of small group leaders that they'll then communicate to in a group chat or Zoom. We just started using Zoom a week ago, so we're new to this. So they'll meet with them via Zoom and go over those details with them. And then those small group leaders will meet on Wednesdays with their students and whether it's communicating information, going over small group curriculum, recapping the message. That's kind of our funnel. It'll go staff, coaches, leaders, students.
And does that report come back up to you that that it's been done?
It does. So that's where I've got some interns and some admins that help keep track of that information. So one of my guys, Nate, he does a fantastic job. I'll communicate to the coaches, but I have Nate help with the data management. That's going to be attendance, small group rosters, making sure the communication is going out. hey, we want to post this specific graphic. He's going to make sure that that graphic gets in the hands of the coaches, and then is going to follow up with them after I've kind of laid the foundation of what's to be communicated and what the general message is.
I was in a staff meeting with the church today, and talking about following people up and making calls. And we were talking about a certain demographic in their church. I think it was the elderly in their church, and they had about 40 or 50 elderly people. And so I was just asking them, using that as an example, and really pushing on the how many phone calls have been made,
Right.
and how's that measured? And they came back to me. One person was like, "Oh, I think we're making 50%." Somebody else came back and said, "No, it's definitely 100%." So I was like, "Well, you're both liars, because you don't have a figure. Like, if you don't have the data in front of you, it's
Right.
like how they say, if it's not on Instagram, it didn't happen."
Right. Yes.
Like that. You have to consider that for yourselves. If you don't measure it,
Yep.
it didn't happen. And I
Very good.
encourage everyone, because sometimes in youth ministry, we can hide behind a shield of like, we're not really great administrators, or we're not great at data. Right now, you have to, if you're not an expert, you have to want it, and you have to find an expert.
Yep.
Because it's no good me saying, "Hey, Luke, did you make some phone calls to the 20 young people I gave you?"
Yeah. All good. All great.
And then, then we find out that was like, yeah, you made 20 phone calls, but you never actually spoke to any of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, you guys put a strong value on
Very good point. Yeah.
data and knowing where you're at.
You know what doesn't lie? Google Drive.
Yeah.
Google Drive does not lie. So, because everybody has to have a Gmail account. So this is what we're doing. Whenever you make phone calls, I'm going to preface it as well. So beyond that communication, because that's more specific for youth. As a church team, Pastor Marcus sat our whole staff down and said, look, for the next foreseeable future, everybody's job is going to change. So you were a youth pastor, you're a care pastor, not anymore. Everybody's job is changing, and we're all on the pastoral care team. So we went through our database as a church, took every volunteer, every small group leader, any giver. So anybody that would ever have a record of ever existing in the church, we took every name and we split it up and divvied it out amongst every staff member, every intern, every person. If you draw anything from the church, you got a list of people on a Google Drive doc that had your name next to it. And it said, Luke DeBenedetto is calling these people specifically. And I'm responsible for those people. And it's a live Google Drive doc, and our whole team shares it. Our whole team has access to it. And you've got their name, their number, and you've got a notes section, your name that's assigned to it, and then a notes section. So after every call, we're our whole team, after every phone call, you're leaving detailed notes of how that phone call went. Did you leave a voicemail? What was the voicemail? Like, specifically. And it's kind of a cool thing. We, on the phone calls, wrote out a script, and I can send this to you guys too if you guys want it for reference. It's honestly brilliant. Another one of our pastors, Kyle Wade, wrote it, and is brilliant with Pastor Marcus. And it basically is here, I kind of pull it up and kind of read through it a little bit. But it is the general tone is faith-filled, and it's three main goals for the phone call. Number one is to check in and pray. Hi, my name's Luke DeBenedetto. I'm calling, obviously, the things that are changing right now in our nation. I want to check in with you to see if there's anything that you need, anything at all, anything that I can be praying with you specifically about. Then you want to identify needs. So if there's any needs that they have, I need toilet paper, I need food, I need hand sanitizer, I need a babysitter. Then we're going to take those needs and figure out what we can do specifically to help them. You need a babysitter. Okay, well, we've got some amazing students that right now are out of school. Maybe one of them can help you. I'm going to call you back, and I'm going to personally help you through that. Then after that, you're going to identify yourself as the point of contact. So on each phone call, we say, hey, by the way, for the next foreseeable future, if you need anything at all, I'm your point of contact. This is my personal cell phone number. You're going to call me or text me if you need anything at all. And then lastly, close and pray with them over the phone.
That's right.
And this is what we've done. We've actually prayed with them, said, oh, I don't need any prayer at all. Okay. Well, would you mind if I just pray God's continued protection and continued favor over your life? And we pray with them right there over the phone. And even if it's a voicemail, it's the weirdest thing. Pray with them over voicemail. and lift up their family by name and pray for them by name. We have been, I mean, when I say overwhelmed, I mean overwhelmed with the amount of people in our church that have responded back and said, I cannot believe you would take the time to personally call me, that a pastor on staff would call me. And I'm like, it's like the simplest. You think, oh, phone call. Yeah, phone calls. What are we really doing? Yeah, okay, yeah, phone calls. What are we really doing? No. That's it. Like, that's it. That's the church. And we've been seeing such an incredible response from it. And then actually following up. So that was week 1. We went through, I think, 32,000 people in the church, and everybody got an individual call from a personal cell phone. And then now we're following back up, and it's all on Google Drive, and you have to take notes. And sometimes these phone calls are painful and sometimes they take a while. I mean, one phone call today, I mean, Savannah can attest because we're working from home. I had 6 different phone calls and they were all over 25 minutes each. And so I'm like, today I did 10 phone calls, but they were quality phone calls. And I got to talk with them, hear about how their kids were doing, some struggles that they were having in their family, some struggles they're having financially, things I'm able to pray with them through. Savannah was just talking through another young lady who got laid off last Friday from her job. She's in tears talking to her on the phone, and she's able to pour into her and pray with her. And here now she's saying, I believe God's telling me I have the call of ministry on my life. I mean, we're seeing amazing things from these phone calls.
Yeah.
It's phone calls. It's not rocket science.
And I think what you can, the guys that maybe that's not been a policy in their church or that's not already organized, what you can do from the youth ministry now is make a list of all the young people that have been connected.
Boom. Yep.
Make those calls. And then second layer for you would be find their parents.
Bingo.
I think you giving their parent a call, you give Johnny a call. How's he, how you doing, man? And then you call Johnny's parents, just, the mom or the dad, depending on who you are. If you're a girl, call the mom, you call the dad.
We had a couple of guys call girls and it didn't go well.
Yeah. Even though there's social distancing, it's still not working. Here's what happens in a crisis, what you have to think through in your ministry. This has proved true for me in 30 years of ministry, from any crisis like this, or if it's like a pastor blows out with immorality, or any major crisis, the pastor gets sick, is what tends to happen is it's like a stone going into a pool and it hits the water, and then you get the ripple effect. And so the initial ripples are at the front near the stone, and they're really big, and then they wave out to the side. And so what we tend to do is we tend to go and address all the emergency in the middle, because that's what gets our attention. And we tend to neglect the edges.
Wow.
The people on the edges. So that kid who hasn't been around for 3 or 4 weeks, or the problem kid or whatever, they're the people on the edges. But when the ripples start to die, they die from the edges in. So the extremities are what drops off first. And so what will normally happen in a crisis, let's just say there's a crisis in the church. It hits and you expect the church to blow apart. The first thing that people say is, man, everyone's tight. Everyone's tight. More people than before, more people attending than before, more money than before. People are volunteering, everything, because everyone packs into that tight circle.
Right.
But if you don't deal with all the people, once you go a couple of weeks, the people from the extremities drop off, you don't notice.
Brilliant. Yeah.
The next level drop off, you don't notice. Next thing, your attendance is 70%, and you're like, oh crap, what's happening? But the momentum against you now, as it's all dying out, is you're a negative momentum, and it's hard to reverse it. So you have to be thinking, how do we keep communication, care, those lines of right from everybody in that, so you can imagine being on the team at Seven Hills. We have over 30,000 phone calls we've got to make. We're going to do it. Everyone head down, tails up. That's the only way you can reach the extremities. Right. That's hitting the extremities.
We even took it another step on week 2. The first week was, hey, what can we be doing for you? Week 2 is now, which we're in right now, starting now. Hey, now we're still checking in with you again. Any needs, anything developed from this past week? Now I'm going to challenge you. So as a staff, and we explained this. So this was what my phone calls were today. Hey, as a staff, as you know, we've been looking at people in our church. I want to encourage you to find 2 to 3 other people in our church or maybe in our community. And I'm going to ask you that you identify any needs they have. You call them, you pray with them. I mean, why are we carrying all the weight? We should be imparting leadership into our church members because we all are the church. So that's been what our focus is now. And same thing with the students. I love that you brought that up about pulling the student data, because youth ministry, again, is so different from your normal church, because you're not necessarily running the same stats, giving units, dream team volunteers, just anybody that's checked in, because about 50% of our youth ministry, their parents don't come to the church. So when we pulled our list of students, what we did is we pulled anybody who checked in from December to March, the second week of March, the last week we had service. So past 3-4 months of every student who's ever checked in got their parent data, and we've been calling parents off that list as well, and students. And I spoke to this mom personally, and she said, I cannot believe that you would call me when my kid's only been a couple of times. We've never even been. She was like, I'm so touched that you would even consider me. And I'm like, it's a phone call. It's just praying with her. But it meant so much. And then I shot her a text to follow up, and she's like, we're going to watch online this weekend. And she's like, I'd love to come check out your church after. So, I mean, this is what the church is for. It's so crucial to be doing that, you know.
What do you suggest that these guys should be like at the moment, a no-fly zone? Things to avoid, forget putting energy into this, you know, you're better off putting into other things. Absolutely, you know, well, are there any no-fly zones that you'd encourage these guys to?
Freaking comparison, you know, don't compare yourself to other people. I'm like, I'll just put it like this, because I'm like looking at everybody in here and I know most of you, but I've been in worlds where, you know, you look at some other people and they might even treat you like you're a nobody. I'm so much bigger and better. Like, you'll go in some places and some conferences and some whatever, and the first question you're asked is, how big's your youth ministry? 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 Like, who cares? Who freaking do you think anybody's caring about how big your youth ministry is right now across America, across the world? No, people are just trying to survive right now. And I think one of the worst things we can do is right now start comparing ourselves to other people. Well, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing this. And I was just talking to a couple other friends who were getting shamed for having service, getting shamed for not having service. I'm like, every church is unique. You know, you've got to follow your senior pastor. I think one of the biggest traps you can fall into is getting caught up in, well, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing that. I mean, steal what works for you. But don't get caught up in comparing yourself. It's such a waste of time. Another more practical thing I'd say to be not worrying about doing right now is quality content. Worrying about, is this, you know, high enough production quality to go out? People don't need that right now. People just need consistency. They don't need quality right now. If it's just you and your phone, you know, in a living room for your message, do something. Don't worry about it being highly produced. Don't worry if it's anything more than an acoustic guitar, you know, off of someone's bench outside their house. People don't need high production. Excuse me, I'm sorry. People don't need high production. So don't get caught up in having to produce things. Yeah, everybody careful, it'll get contagious.
Looking for sanitizer.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple guys, and that's what they were worrying about. Like, how are you shooting? How are you editing? And it's like, even how we're doing our stuff is so simple. I'm putting work into like whatever the message is, but the worship sets, it's an acoustic guitar and a keyboard and a couple people singing. It's simple.
And I think maybe your strengths too. I think you guys have got to just, you know, what's your strength? What makes you unique?
Yeah.
Some of you can do funny videos and get that out. And I do think that we need to keep an element of humor.
Yeah, I agree.
Passionate, you know, and then you might want to draw on some young people to add some humor. But I think you just need to be, because Pastor Kent had this really good thought that he shared the other day, and this has proved true for me. So when you're in stay in place, shelter in place, lockdown, isolation, and your normal rhythms are not happening. So it's hard today to really work out what day is it today.
Yes.
Monday,
Yeah.
Tuesday, is it what day is it? Because it all just seems to roll. And so the normal rhythms of youth service on Wednesday night, Sunday, they're probably going to blend. And so still do your communication on your night of service, but make sure that you're giving out content, small, a devotional, shoot a
Yep.
devotional, make a joke, do an interview,
Yep.
whatever you can do, something online that's live, do a TikTok, do whatever.
Yes.
And but just keeping people's airspace. I even think, I don't know how many people are using Snapchat anymore, but I still think, do a
Kid
prayer
right
on
now for
Snapchat,
us.
shoot that out, or do a little prayer on a phone and text the prayer to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any way that you can keep communicating, getting that out there would be.
Anything that you can be doing. What we're doing right now is, so we've never had a YouTube channel before. So if anybody else has been there, we just now started a YouTube channel a week ago. So subscribe. But we are, so what we're doing on our YouTube channel is Wednesday night's our service night. So, or whatever night you have service. So if it's Sunday or Wednesday or Tuesday, we have a service day, and that's when we post our service and we stream it through YouTube Live. It's free. It's easy. It works as a live stream. You can chat on there, and then it'll save to the channel automatically. So that's what we do. It works really easy. And then on Fridays or Saturdays, we try to do like a really cool post, whether it's just like a student sharing a thought or a cover of a worship song. And then on Mondays or Tuesdays on YouTube, we try to do something funny. So yesterday we did a video called Quarantine Cuties, which is just like, hey, how do you date during social distancing? And it was just a bunch of stupid kids saying really cheesy 80s pickup lines, kind of like for like online dating. So just stupid, funny, something to put out there. And then across Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat, as much as you can, just post stuff. Post pictures of service and say, we're praying for you. Post something on the Instagram story. Ask, how can we be praying for you? We do a thing called TikTok Tuesdays, and we just have our students find funny TikToks. If you don't even have the time to create something, find funny videos on TikTok and say, hey, here's our favorite TikToks for the week. Which one made you laugh? Post that on TikTok Tuesday. Whatever. It's so easy to do stuff. I think we get so in our heads thinking we have to have this crazy, original, high produced content. It doesn't take much. Use your students. Employ a team of students to be your creative geniuses for the next 4 weeks and say, hey, your guys' job every week is to give me 7 posts every week that I can use. And that's your job. And then check in with them. That's what we do. That's what we've done to stay relevant. I'm not relevant anymore. I have people tell me what to do. and then I just follow that rhythm. So I try to just identify students and say, hey, and just give them a title. Hey, you're the social media brand ambassador. I don't know what that is, but you're that. And your job is to come up with brand content for us and to make cool graphics. And there's so many apps you can use that are free. Heck, I edit in Instagram. I'll go to Google a fun picture and then throw text over top of it. Just something. I'm like, I don't care how it looks. Just get it out there. Put content out there. Record yourself doing something funny. Just whatever, as long as you're putting content out there.
What strengths do you think that the church has to offer? And what strengths do you think our youth ministry has to offer the community right now?
It's a really good question. I think, everything that's going across, I really do think God has been preparing the church for something like this. I don't mean to get super deep and super spiritual. My uncle is a pastor at a small church. They've got about maybe 50 to 100 members. And I was talking to him earlier this past week. I was checking in on him. I was like, hey, I wanted to see how you're doing on all this craziness. And he said, it's so weird. He's like, 2 months ago, I had a guy come up in our church and give the largest donation we'd ever seen. He said that donation alone would be enough to see us through for the next 6 months. And he was like, it was amazing. He was like, I've never seen anything like that. And he was like, and in my heart, I was wondering, I wonder what God is going to do right now. And I look at even our church, the season we were personally in, we're in this season of doing small groups. Peter's on here. Peter, I was just at Peter's church, and they have a phenomenal youth ministry. My goodness, in February. and I was getting ideas about small groups from them. And I had never had more of an emphasis for small group leaders, like in my life. Like I've always been, oh, small groups are okay. Like, is anybody else ever like been like that a little bit? We're being honest. I'm like, I've personally never been super excited about small groups. And then all this happens and it's my crutch. So it's so interesting to see how something that I thought was an option is now a total necessity. And I really do think that God through this season is building the church to show just how much we need community and relationship and how important it is. And even when we get out of our normal ruts, our normal routines, there's got to be more than just four walls and a roof. There's got to be more. And even it's funny you said that about Pastor Kent too. I was talking to him a little bit ago when he was in town a couple months ago. And we were talking about Central Youth Conference. And we're like, it's so great. It's awesome. But, we serve the same God at CYC as we do right now. But why in moments of conferences like that does he seem so real and so evident? Well, I think it's because you're out of your normal routine. When you're out of your normal routine, your perspective shifts. God's perspective doesn't change, but your perspective begins to shift and say, I'm not in my normal routine. I'm not around the same people. And it opens you up to something great because your perspective begins to change. So I think right now, what God is trying to do, and this is just my personal belief, I could be totally wrong, but I think God's trying to shift the perspective of the church right now, the capital C church, saying, hey, church is so much more than how big's your youth ministry? How big's your church? What series are you doing? Right? It's so much more than that. And it's getting back to the basics, switching our perspective back to how are we caring for our people? So I think during this time, it's such a great opportunity to build that. And that's got to be our foundation. The church is people. It's never been a building. So I think for us, it's a strength for the church that we're developing right now is our relationships with the church. There have been so many people that I've been like, man, I don't remember the last time I talked to them over the phone and had a conversation more than just in the lobby. Hey, how you doing? Oh, you look good. Your shirt looks great on you. Okay, see you later, bub. And you do that once a week, and that suffices as friendship or relationship, and it doesn't. And I think that's been at least our shift right now that we've been seeing is the importance of genuine community and genuine relationships with people.
What do you think the areas where the church still remains weak, and that we should be like, man, we need to address this immediately?
I think realizing that, it's a service can be great. And I'm guilty of that because, when I first started interning years ago, I was so passionate about the quality of a service and I didn't really pay mind to things like volunteers or small groups. And now I'm like that's everything. Like people are everything. So I'm still seeing guys so caught up in, I'm hanging with this person. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. That's great. That's fantastic. But we've got to realize the importance of our people and just having a relationship with them. And and people say, oh, you can't really measure relationship. You absolutely can. Take notes on conversations and then actually follow up with them and say, hey, I had a college kid I called this past week and he had to move back home because he was staying in campus and the dorms closed, which you guys are probably seeing a lot of that too. So he moved back to Indiana. His aunt has cancer. She's at high risk. And I just got to pray with him. And I could tell he was a little teary-eyed and sniffling. And he said, I've never in my life felt like I was a part of a community until right now. So I really do think that's the biggest opportunity for growth right now is the church.
How cool is it now? Because we can all say, like, we can all post stuff like, I've been social distancing from Justin Bieber lately. I've been personally social distancing from TD Jakes.
Yeah. I'm social distancing from God right now for the season. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the next question we're going to ask you is, I was praying this morning for you, Luke, and he was like, who?
He said, I don't know. He's been social distancing.
Like, Luke DeBenedetto. And he's like, no one's got a last name DeBenedetto.
It's not in my book.
He's a good guy. Here's a thought that I think that we need to get a hold of, and maybe I don't know if you guys have talked about this as a staff or thought about this in youth ministry, but like a week ago, because everything changed. Like you talked about that before, everything's changing so rapidly.
Right.
So like 5 days ago, I knew nobody who had COVID-19.
Right.
It was out there, was the people in LA or people out here, and I knew nobody. And then like in the last 5 days, that's moved closer to me. So there was like a Samaria for me. It was like people I knew in our church that were, I'd met sort of once, spent a little bit of time. He has COVID-19. Then there was a guy who was on our team, one of the pastors on our team, who had, and then somebody close to my family. So it seemed to just get closer. Now, thankfully, all of those were strong and healthy. But if this thing does escalate, like they anticipate it will escalate, and let's hope it doesn't, but let's just say that death rate increases, and then now you've got students where that grief or that tragedy moves in. What are you guys doing to gear up to say, okay, if we have, let's call it 30 teenagers who are burying grandparents or burying an auntie or burying an uncle or a parent or a friend at school, or what are you guys doing to gear up on the potential for having to do grief counseling or ministry to students who get impacted?
It's a really good question. I don't even think we've planned that far for that yet. I mean, when I say it's been daily. We've been assessing and reassessing where things are at. Even for that, I wouldn't even know what to say, because I would say I would even open that up to see if anybody else has thoughts on that. Because if so, I would like to hear that.
Yeah, is anybody online here? Have you thought that through, planned that through yet, or is that a little bit too far?
We don't have a plan in place, but we had just started the discussion about potentially, if we have to do a funeral at the church, live streaming it to families. That's as far as we got in that discussion. There's obviously a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have had that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it and you're like, you're so right. It transitioned from a far out there thing to an in the community thing very quickly for us. So just this, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, maybe we found 3 cases are in our county, which is a small radius, Boone County. And there's been cases in Kenton County, which is right next to us. And it's rapidly changing. And I think people are catching it. So even around here, the only deaths that have occurred in Kentucky, so far it's been 1 death. I don't know if that's been changed, but the last I heard, it was 1 death, and it was an older guy who had pre-existing medical conditions. So even for the family, they released a statement saying we kind of already were planning that way. So
yeah, I would encourage everybody online here to at least give that some thought. There's 2 things I think that we're missing.
that's a good thought.
One is thinking that through, because what you don't want is 2 or 3 weeks from now, this thing to escalate, and now you've got 10 students who are all walking through grief and you don't even know where to send them. So I think, as I said, hopefully we won't have to deal with this, but you just have to think to yourself, how we're going to, because you won't be able to do all that counseling. You won't be able to do it all. So you're going to have somebody that you can refer them to, or a team of people, or maybe drawing some older leaders in the church on how to do that. And then the second thing that I think is really important, that I've been fairly passionate about, is in moments like this, we're so focused on our isolation. We're so focused on, we can't go to the gym, or the things that we can't go, and we don't have church, and all these things that we're scrambling. We just seem to forget that there are a whole heap of people in our world, like 2 weeks ago, who had cancer, leukemia. They were already, I got a friend of mine in Australia who's got ALS. He hasn't stopped having motor neurons disease. It didn't sort of stop and go on a holiday for us to cope with COVID-19.
Right.
So just to be aware that you've still got students in your ministry that are getting beaten up, that maybe now they're not going to school, they're not eating, and trying to work out ways that we can bring an answer to those everyday challenges that could get brushed under the carpet.
Right.
Are you dealing with any of that stuff, like those emergency needs? What are you guys doing with the youth ministry there for that?
Very, very good call outs. Very good, because it's just because this tragedy is happening, people are still getting laid off. People are still dealing with disease. People are still dealing with all that. So very good point. I think that's where, at least for us, where it's really important to be taking notes. So we know, we had a kid whose mom passed away. She overdosed. Kid's 16 years old. His mom overdosed, would have been 2 months ago now. Grandma is, in debt because she had to worry about the funeral and figure out all these other things. And she just lost her son the year before. That family's still going through crisis, everything else that's going on. So we've been working with them for meal assistance through our church. So our outreach team is doing like preparing what they're calling go boxes, which has all the essentials for foods, toilet paper, paper towels, hand sanitizer. And then we're opening up the church at certain times of the day, like 9 a to 9 p, for families to drive up and get supplies and get things that they need. So on these phone calls, we're asking people, what needs do you have? And we press them, hey, do you need anything? No, I'm good. Okay, bye. No. Hey, do you need anything? Okay, let's talk a little bit more. Hey, I want to ask you again, is there anything that you need? Oh, no, we're good. Okay. And then one phone call, Pastor Marcus had it because he's doing phone calls too. He had one guy, he asked him 3 different times, do you need anything? Do you need anything? Do you need anything? No, I'm good, Pastor. No, I'm good, Pastor. No, I'm good, Pastor. He asked him again. Well, Pastor, now that you're mentioning it, he is an owner. He's got 3 different nursing home facilities, and they were completely out of hand sanitizer. And he was like, now that you mention it, our supplier says there's no more. And we're like, okay, well, let's help you. Let's help. So whether it's something big like that, or something like, hey, my kid doesn't have a meal anymore because he was on the lunch program at school, and it's just supplying them with meals. So, I mean, I can't stress enough the importance of those phone calls and taking good notes, so we can look back and say, hey, we can mark this kid. Hey, this is a kid who needs help with food. Let's put him on a list that's recurring, and we can keep getting him the help. So it all comes back to taking really good notes, data management, everything, because it's not really data, it's people, it's care, and good care requires good management. So we got to be able to track everything and know who said what to them, what we're doing to help. So it's not just, oh, it was a really good phone call. No, that was a good phone call. And I'm getting their kids plugged into a small group because their kids aren't in a small group right now, so it really does come back to that.
I think it's good to remind yourself too, none of this, all of this caught us by surprise.
Yeah.
But none of this caught God by surprise.
Right.
And the fact that you're leading your youth ministry right now is a part of God's plan.
Right.
It goes back to, who knows, you may have been called to the kingdom for such a time as this.
Mm-hmm.
And there could have been anybody else leading the youth ministry you're leading right now, but God chose you. So right. You are the man, you are the woman that's, well equipped and well able to be able to handle this.
Right.
And maybe God just wants to draw more out of you than you ever thought that you had. Because 9 times out of 10, dealing with youth leaders, there's massively much more potential in them than you ever see. It's got to be drawn out. And either another leader draws that out or God draws that out. And I just think in this time that God's trying to draw better out of you, that you are well equipped to do this. You've got the skills, you've got the ability. And even just looking online here with the different youth pastors, you've got connections. If you don't know what to do or you're stuck, you can text me. We can do a Zoom call. I can Zoom with you and your team to help you navigate through some stuff. Pretty sure Luke would be available for that. So just let us know if we can help you in any way. We want to help you. You're not alone. And that's the beauty of this generation. Like, it wasn't that long ago that if we needed help, you'd have to tie a note to a pigeon, chuck it out the window, hope it went to the right location. But today, we're in a great season.
Right.
Just for this last bit, anybody that's got a question or something you're dealing with that you'd like to throw at Luke, maybe just take time to ask that and let him answer any questions that are here.
Or just thoughts, anything to help contribute, things that you're doing that you found are really successful and really helping in your areas that maybe we didn't touch on.
Can you hear me, John?
I can hear Joe.
Cool. Hello. Thanks for letting me in on this one. Question I've got is, we ran some Instagram Live, Facebook Live stuff for our youth ministry over the weekend, and had stacks of people joining in. And when we were scrolling through the views, we did a team meeting and ran through and identified 30 students who weren't part of our youth ministry but had joined because of a connection with a friend. So
Wow.
then we contacted them by, using their Instagram handles, sent them a message, sent them links to our youth ministry registration. But has anyone got a quicker way to do that, or is anyone doing, new people in a creative way at the moment to get them connected in?
Man, that's brilliant that you guys did that. I don't even know if you would want to mass do that. I don't think there's a better way than doing that personally. Whether that's you or a team member or highly active students in your ministry reaching out to them. I mean, I think that's brilliant. Whenever we had big events, we used to do that on our account. We would get people in and we would give people temporary access to our legacy account, and we would personally message anybody that we were following or anybody that liked posts and just say, hey, want to invite you out. Hey, want to invite you out. Want to invite you out. That's brilliant that you're doing that for viewers, because how many more people are going to be, more likely to watch a live stream than go to a church? So this is your building time. Like, that's how I'm viewing it. At least this is why am I going to wait? So I'm just going to put everything on pause till we're back to normal church. Church is happening. Church. This is church. That's 30 first-time guests that you just had attend your service. And it's different than what the church is used to. But I think that's awesome, man. I need to do that. I'm telling our team to do that. I'm stealing that from you.
I have a question. So we kind of did the same thing. We went back through reviewers and checked who isn't like current students or maybe students we've seen in the past. One way that we're trying to see if we're starting it this week is we started using Clearstream. I don't know if you guys the texting service. We are reaching out personally, but it is just another way that we put out to say, hey, if you are new, if you do want some more info, but like it's just a text whatever word you set up to this number. Hey, we want to connect with you personally, and then we're putting that number into our leaders' hands to connect with them. So just following up on what he said, that's something that we just tried, and it's actually working pretty well for us. But as far as your actual experience on YouTube for Wednesday night stuff, are you I may have missed it, but are you pre-recording everything and streaming it live, or are you only doing it through YouTube, or are you doing it at the same time, like on any other platforms while YouTube is going?
Yeah. So what we found right now, at least this is just for us. So I don't think there's any right way to do it. This is just what we found that we like. We pre-record everything because I can just take a day and get students in and have them record, play 6 songs, right? And then I can have 3 weeks worth of worship because I can do 2 songs per week. So I'm blocking out 2 hours, and I have a team there of a couple students. It's like 5 students, and I can get 3 weeks worth of worship content. And then I'm recording just a person doing announcements, and then recording myself doing the message, putting that together. And then YouTube has a feature you could just set as premiere, and it'll post to the account, but at a certain time, it's like you're watching a live video. So then you can chat on there the same way, and then it'll just add to the channel afterwards. So we'll do that. We'll share that link to Facebook. So to our Facebook page. So that's why it's not a Facebook Live, but you can watch it live on our Facebook page, even though it's just a link to the YouTube. And then we'll put the link on Instagram. I haven't figured out a good way to share it to our Instagram audience other than putting the link in our bio and doing a bunch of posts saying, hey, click the link in our bio, click the link in our bio. We had a good turnout last week. This past Wednesday was our first time doing it, and it seemed to work well enough for us to keep doing that. But I know a lot of people are doing IGTV. We're trying that stuff throughout the week as well. So the team just did a little thing today. We're just calling it group chat, and they're just talking. There's going, because you can there's that feature where you can go live and then other people can request to be live with them. So we're just doing that with other students and leaders, and they're just talking about life, and it's just fun, kind of off the cuff. But it's just another cool live thing that we've done.
Hey, quick question. Robbie here.
Hi, Robbie.
What's up, Luke? Just wondering why you chose to do the YouTube live over IGTV. There were certain benefits that you saw on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, personally, we've been playing around with the idea for a YouTube channel for a while. So I was kind of forced into it a little bit. My team's been wanting to do it for a while. And I said, unless we can be consistent, I don't want to do it, because I don't want to be like, hey, here's a YouTube channel, post a video, and then it goes dormant for 4 weeks. So it kind of forced our hand a little bit to have to be consistent. So that's kind of why we've been looking at YouTube for a while. YouTube works well with Facebook as well. And if I do IGTV, I feel like I've tried it. It just works well on Instagram. YouTube, at least from what I found, and there's probably better ways of doing it, works the best to share. So I can send the channel link in emails to people, to parents. I can send that link, through our app as well, through text messages. When we call students, after we finish the call, we'll also do a follow-up text message with them. Just, hey, had a great time talking with you. Here's the link to our YouTube channel. So a lot of middle schoolers that might not have Instagram can still view it. So we found it's just a bit more universal for everybody. Almost everybody is going to have the YouTube app. Most everybody has Instagram, but everybody's going to watch stuff on YouTube. So that's just was our reasoning for it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. I think Facebook Live's a great option. Instagram Live's a great option. YouTube Live's a great option. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But I've even seen people be like I saw another guy, I won't say his name, just nobody in here, was like, this is the best way to do it, blah, 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 all the other ways suck. I'm like, just do your thing, man. Just do your thing. Quit comparing yourself to other people. Do what works. If your people are like, let's do Facebook, then do Facebook. If your people are like, let's do Instagram, do Instagram. I think you have to find your lane, what's going to be best effective for you guys.
Just a heads up too, when you're talking about recording video, are you doing it at church? Are you going in to record those services in church, or?
So I did. That was before this morning, because this morning things changed. So up until this morning, it was like, hey, you can go in just 6 feet apart, less than 10 people. So things are changing. I mean, every day. So it very well could be I edit in iMovie.
Yeah, just so you, just for info, and you may want to check this locally too, because we're still doing that here in Chicago, going into church. We did that today. Anna and I recorded today for tomorrow night's, streaming with their revival service. Mm-hmm. And in the list in Illinois, and the same, I checked in California, when they list out all the essential businesses, how, so in the shelter in place, you can only function if you're an essential.
Correct, yeah.
And in that list of essential businesses is faith-based services that are provided through streaming or other technology. So the shelter in place order for Illinois and for California, which is two pretty liberal, states. So you may want to just check. And when I scrolled that, I had to really go down a long way.
To find, they made it hard.
Like it's down. It's like right down in the base of the list. But so that's why we're still able to go into the church.
Yeah.
Because we're allowed to travel there. We're allowed to record there. Same thing. Keep 6 feet apart. We were sterilizing everything. Like I wouldn't use the microphone until they sterilized it.
Yep.
And, we took extra precautions, stayed apart from everybody. We're being smart, because you don't want to ignore it and then spread the disease or get it.
Right.
But you may not be as limited as going in and recording at the church as you perceive you are from a shelter-in-place order.
Yeah, true. Very good.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I have to head. Just wanted to say thank you so much, guys, for this morning. Thank you, Pastor John. You're a legend.
No,
And
Yeah.
he's a legend youth pastor in Australia.
Man, you're the man. You're the man. Thank you for being with us.
thank you. Praying for you guys. God bless.
You, sir. God bless.
Anybody other questions for Luke?
Yeah, I have a quick question. So, Luke, I am strictly junior high, and you mentioned just sending out the YouTube, and I loved that. So one of the things we're going online small groups right now.
Really cool.
So one of the things we are doing is group FaceTime, Google Hangouts, or an app called House Parties.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wasn't sure if there's any other formats that any of y'all are currently using for that purpose, or any ways that might even work better than those theories. Because like you said, not all junior hires have access to either a phone or computer, anything like that.
Yeah, we're using Zoom. Again, it's just what works for us. House Parties is fantastic. Any one of those apps is going to do the same job very well. As far as getting it out to students to use it, I've encouraged all my leaders, because we're always focused about having a group chat. Hey, get all your students in a group chat.
Yeah.
But what's helped a lot this past semester is have a group chat with all your parents as well, or guardians.
Good.
So, for instance, one of my leaders this morning talked to me. Hey, I contacted all my students. One of their numbers was their grandpa's number. Grandpa is not comfortable with his grandson having a phone. He's 12 years old. So I was like, add him to the parent group chat, even though he's a grandpa. Just add him to the group chat with parents. And then you can send the link to your meeting. Hey, guys, here's the link. You send that to the kids, and then you send that to the parents. Hey, just want to let you know, here's your student's link, because it might just need to be, hey, Billy, borrow grandpa's phone for the next hour. And then, but you're communicating through the parent saying, hey, here's our meeting time. Here's the link. Click this and give that to your kid for the next little bit. Might help a little bit.
Yeah.
It's helped us.
Man, that's so good. And so how do you all structure that within Zoom? Or do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. So we, again, I've got my admin guy who can help with all this stuff.
Okay.
But each person, we just created an account for him, because you have your personal account.
Right.
And you can just so we walked each leader on how to schedule their meeting.
Okay.
So all of our services are on Wednesday nights online at 7. So we had each leader schedule their meeting for 8 o'clock. And what they'll do is right after it streams, they'll all meet online on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock, all at the same time. So we walked each leader just basically how to set this up. Hey, you download Zoom. Okay, great. Download Zoom. Check mark. Okay, next step. You're going to go to start a meeting or create a meeting or schedule, whatever it is on there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. And we just walk them through how to do it. So whatever app you use, it's probably just going to take either you or a person walking each, depending on the size of your structure.
Yeah.
Walk each leader through, whoever that person is, if it's a coach or an assistant, walk each leader through, this is how you do Zoom. And now I want you to test it, and I'll be your student. So go ahead and test it and send me a request to be in your meeting. And then we did that with all our leaders, and they feel good. And so that we're in it now, and it's been cool. It's been really cool. And I instructed everybody to do this too. Whenever they have a meeting, tag Legacy, our youth ministry,
Yeah.
and post it. Because all that is like, wow, that's cool. That's again, you're going to be inviting other students to be a part of that.
Right.
New students will want to be a part of that more than just coming to a church experience. They're going to be more open to that than just coming to a church experience. If seeing everybody, it's kind of low key. You can join, you can be in a blanket. I could not be wearing pants right now for all you guys know, but it's a bit more relaxed. I'm wearing pants. I want to clarify that this is being recorded.
Before he got online.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Hopefully that helped.
Yeah.
Sorry about the pants joke. Don't be offended, please.
Well, there's only two lots of clothes you wear now in Chicago: your day pajamas and your night pajamas.
That's about it. I'm about to lose my mind though. I like getting ready, so I'll just be walking around in clothes.
Any other questions? Things that you want to throw in here while we got you?
I got a question. Andrew from Minneapolis here.
Hey Andrew, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Outside of your Wednesday nights and the content you're trying to put on Instagram and you're trying to put on YouTube, have anybody here found with kids being home from school and everyone's just hanging out at home, anybody found some good times of day to put out some content that you get some more engagement, like 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Are your students sleeping in a lot, or are you students getting up and doing e-learning homework, or what's going on with that?
Dude, great question. I've not found it out. So we do stuff. We've been trying every day, and I literally told our team this. And if anybody else has thoughts here, chime in. I literally said to them, I was like, I want to try post at 9 a.m. and then I want to try post at 2 p.m. and then at 9 p.m. And we're just trying stuff because it's different. It's totally different. There is really no schedule. It used to be 3 o'clock was a great time because everybody was just getting out of school. So everybody's going on their phones right out of school, or 9 o'clock, which is after most practices. And then you can see that. So now it's whatever. Anybody else have thoughts? We're trying all different times right now.
Yeah, we took a poll actually of our influencers and seeing where, because they have the e-school, and so the e-school is majority of them are all sleeping in, and so they're gonna do that. Then they have the e-school, and then the rest of the day they literally are doing nothing. So we kind of just put every part of the country, every part where you are is different, because before, kind of Luke, how you were saying, we Googled it and we just said what's the best times, but now we just have to stick to our demographic and who we are talking with. And so we just talk to our influencers and just be like, what are you doing this time? What are you doing this time? What are you doing this time? And then we just took advantage of that, of just like who our demographic is. And that's when we're kind of just working with that and just dealing with that. So that's what worked with us. It could work differently with all y'all, but that's just kind of how we've done it.
Is it just me, or does Greg look like he's an ESPN commentator?
He does. He's got the full headset.
I wasn't going to say anything, but that stash is just out there right now.
He does look like that. I like it, man.
Any other thoughts of those rhythms, those times? That was good.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah, I actually asked a group of about 15 students that exact question, because we based it off of their school schedules, like while they're in school. And for us, what we found is the exact same thing. They're taking advantage of sleeping in, and they're not waking up till 10, 11 o'clock. And this week, a lot of our schools are starting to go to the online platform. And so they're taking about 2-3 hours from give or take 11 to about 2. They're doing schoolwork, they're catching up on stuff, and they're really not hopping on stuff until about 3 o'clock for us, at least where we are. So from 3 to 9, we're loading almost every other hour trying to get things out. For us, it just took asking the students honestly and seeing like, hey, when are y'all on right now? When is the downtime, even though you're at home right now?
Smart, man. Smart. That seems like the general consensus. Asking people. That's smart. Like, what are you guys doing?
I have a question. Since we're totally turning everything over virtually, we really are utilizing the Zoom, the Hangouts, and everything like that. Probably a good third of our youth group is low-income housing, or things where they're being brought and they're really looking forward to the Sundays in-person meetings, and they get there because of public trans, or they're doing it themselves, and everything's themselves, and then they can't afford, computers, or they can't afford the phones, or they don't have, things like that. I don't know, anybody out there, is there anything that you guys do? Because we try to do is when we do get connection with them, where it's very rare because it's through their aunt's number that they put down,
Right.
but she's working 4 jobs and it's not really, or things along those lines. So it's like, how do you get out there, because everything's quarantined there, you can't go out, you can't go and reach them. So what are some of those things? I don't know if anyone else has been dealing with that, but I just don't want to lose them. I don't want them to think we're not trying to reach them and stuff like that. So I don't know if anyone else has been dealing with that.
Really good question. Really good question. I mean, I've seen a couple students like hanging out, like even though that they like two kids I know specifically, one of them's got a really rough home life, but I was talking to him today on the phone, and he was like, I've been with my buddy Matt basically every day. So I mean every day. Because of this, you can't go out many places. So I was like, what do you guys do? He's like, just hang out at his house. So I would say maybe at least what's working for him, hanging out with somebody else, being at somebody else's house that maybe does have, a computer or a phone or something that you can watch services with. Maybe not calling them watch parties, because you don't want to be like, oh my God, social distancing. But I mean, a couple people, yeah, sure. Why not? Why not have one or two people over? It's not, a mass gathering, but a couple people would be okay. Maybe that could help.
Any more questions before we wrap up? We'll wrap up in a moment. I have a thought that I just want to throw out and think of you, because I know, again, Luke, everyone's scrambling, trying to cope with what's happening. So that's enough to occupy our mind. But I think what's going to happen once this is all over and people have been isolated, that there is going to be a desire for community, like a really rapid desire.
Yep.
And we were talking, Anna and I talking about this the other day, how in Italy right now, they're all singing out their windows, and there's this sort of sense of community because everyone's singing together. And it's different apartments and not, but that the thing that connects them. And I think that's going to be what becomes, very high importance when this is all done, is people wanting that connection again. Right. Because I don't care how good your praise and worship is online. Yeah. It is not like church on Sunday.
Yep. Right.
Like it's, I don't, I've tried to stand there and do the I'm in church thing. I just feel like you're.
It's so weird.
It's weird. So I usually sit and let them sing, and I just get ribbons and float and whatever.
I knew you were like a flag waver.
Yeah, closet flag waver. But and I think when this kicks back in, we're going to have a window of time that potentially our numbers could swell. We could get more students in. So
yep,
just make sure that you're thinking that through.
Yeah, and then what your system's going to be like when you do come back.
Yeah.
So we will be going back to normal. Like that's assured. It will be going back. There is an end date to this. So maybe now's a good time to develop systems. So when it does happen, we got to be ready for it. This conference at Free Chapel, this leadership thing, and maybe this was just new to me, but Pastor Jensen and then their youth pastor was talking to Tyshawn about, we hear the story of Peter when he's on the boats and Jesus says, cast out your nets and, bring up the fish. They've been fishing all day, and they cast the nets out, and there's so many fish, and it's such a miracle. It's amazing. Wow. But, they had to bring another boat over to help get the fish. And how they were talking about it, saying, yeah, we think this is a story about the miraculous. Really, it's a story about being unprepared. Because if they had really had faith and believed Jesus, that when he said, cast down your nets, why didn't they bring in a fleet of boats? Why didn't they bring in the more nets? Why didn't they bring in 10 different boats with all these nets? They had one boat, they threw down their little measly nets, and the nets began to break. So what ended up happening? The fish had to go to other people. So it really was a story of being unprepared. So I think this is our time to be prepared. What can we do to prepare for the miraculous? Because it's going to happen. I mean, that's assured. It will happen. People will have a need. They'll have a hunger. We got to be prepared for it. So I think, again, it's like, how can we, realize the importance when we go back into church to not get caught up in four walls and a roof, to not get caught up in just services, and, how can we remain and sustain this care that we're giving our people while we're in church, not get so caught up in doing church that we forget to be the church. I don't know. I think this is the church's finest hour right now. And God's going to do something really cool through each of our ministries. I'm believing that.
That's great. Can you pray for everybody? You've got a whole heap of people online. thank you guys for taking time out to be
Thank you all. Yeah.
online tonight. And if we do any more of these, I'll make sure that I'll let you know. But as we said, Luke's there. I'm around. If you need input, you want help, you don't have to do the season alone. You don't have to do this season in isolation. And if we can't help you, there are plenty of people sitting at the table here tonight who could help you.
Yes, my goodness.
Peter's doing a phenomenal job there at Rivers Crossing. There's a whole heap of guys that are online here tonight that are doing
passion. My God, legends.
So, Luke, do you want to pray?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for this opportunity, which is what it is. And you wrap opportunity in the weirdest, strangest ways sometimes, Lord. But this is an opportunity for your church, for your kingdom. Your word says, Lord, you've made this day. You've ordained these moments. This is the day that you've made. We're going to rejoice and we're going to be glad in it. We don't have to see the miraculous to give you praise, Lord. We can praise you in advance for the mighty work you're going to do in each of our ministries. Lord, right now I lift up each pastor in here. Lord, would you continue to pour out your favor, pour out a fresh anointing on us, Lord. You've called us, you've equipped us, you've given us everything that we need to excel. You've appointed us in these positions, in these roles, to these churches, to these communities for a reason in this time, Lord. Would you give us strength? Would you refresh us in this season, Lord? It can be so taxing to not see the end and to not see the light through it, Lord. But I ask in the name of Jesus for your fresh presence, your peace to fall on us, your clarity to fall on us. Lord, I ask for wisdom. Lord, we ask for wisdom in this time, Lord. And with wisdom, there's caution, but there's no fear, Lord. So allow us to be wise in this season as we lead teams, as we lead our students, and as we are led by you and by our pastors, Lord. We're grateful for this thing that you're doing, Lord. I ask you continue to bless, continue to protect each of us, our families, our church during this time, Lord. Continue to stir up a spirit of revival in our church, Lord, that people would have a hunger for you, a dependence for you like never before. And we're going to rejoice for the work you're going to do through this all. And we thank you for choosing us. We thank you for trusting us, Lord. And we give you all the praise, all the glory in your name, Jesus, your son, Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Those are awesome.
Love you guys. Love you all very
Thank you,
much.
guys.
This is the
Thank you,
dream
See
team.
you
Like,
guys.
my goodness.
See you guys. See you, Joel.
Thank you
Thank
so
you all
much.
so much.
Bye, guys. Have a great night.
You guys.